Okay, hi YouTube. Today what we're going to do is go over the inconsistencies again. I've put it in a presentation form. There a lot of them will be ones we've covered throughout the time, but then we also have a lot more added. I think when I stopped doing this, there was something like, I don't know, 40, 48, 49, or 50, something around there. And I think now we're up to like 67. Something, it's in the 60s, so we have a lot more. And so let's just not waste any time, and I will get this going so I can share my screen. Oops. I would think that's what I'm going to do. Oh, sorry. Okay, it's just looking really different. Okay, not sure what it's doing, but okay. And here we go. Okay, inconsistencies. Okay, what has been found? David's blood is found only on the magazine, which was inside of the gun. Ranya's blood is only on a very minute area of item 53. Ranya's right third rib is fractured. Kamel's head and possibly her right hand were covered by a blanket, which would make it inaccessible to the dog. Kamel's left hand is under her body, making it inaccessible to the dog. The back door was slightly ajar. There are passive blood drops in the kitchen. There are no blood stains on the rug where the bodies were found. Only Kamel's blood has been found in the house. David's DNA is missing from his cell phone. The laptop was accessed on January 14, 2015. What some of you might not know is that means somebody turned it on or manipulated the laptop. That's a manual thing. Someone has to do that. It's not like an automatic thing, like if you bump your laptop or no. You have to actually physically go in and do something. And so it was accessed on January 14th. Police Chief Rexigal, sorry, I don't know how to say his name, said they knew within 2 hours the case was a murder-suicide. And this was a direct quote from an article he did. However, the police didn't even show up until 4 hours after the 911 call. Now, what that means is that the call was made at 12:57 p.m. Officers were dispatched, and officers did show up, but these were just a couple of officers who were there. They secured the scene, made sure nobody else was in there, stationed somebody out both sides, both doors, to make sure nobody else could go in and out, and they waited. And it wasn't until 4:51 p.m. that the BCA and then the police officers showed up and entered the house and started their investigation. So the police chief said he knew within 2 hours, but nobody even gets there for 4 hours. That tells me that the decision was made on what it was 2 hours before they even get to the house. The body positions do not match the decomp stains on the rug. The blood spatter shows only medium velocity. Well, there's also some passive, but I'm talking about from a weapon. The blood spatter goes in several directions, showing movement of Kamel during the attack. And the reason why we know it's Kamel is because Kamel's blood is the only blood that was found. By looking at the weight of the bullets that killed David and Rania are missing from the scene and have not been recovered. So you'll have to go, I'll put a link to my, I think Sophia did that one with me, where we did the video on the bullet weights. It was very interesting and very eye-opening. I highly suggest you watch that. The direction of item 57 is akin to horizontal, and the direction of the gunshot wound to David's head is akin to a vertical direction. So what I mean is, like, that will help you understand. The one is traveling this way and the other is traveling this way. I probably have that backwards. I think I do. I think the item 57 was actually vertical, and then David's would have been horizontal. So sorry, I had that mixed up. But anyway, the point is that they're in complete opposite directions. So it's impossible. That couldn't have been the bullet that killed him. I mean, we know it's not, but that's just something that was never taken into account. Police reports say advanced stages of decomp, while the autopsy reports state early to moderate. Item 57 was found a month later and was reported by Chris Klein after numerous people had been in and out of the home and nobody else saw it. Item 53 was found on January 20th, 2015, 3 days after the bodies were discovered by the cleaning crew. It had rolled out from the rug. As they're rolling up the rug, it rolled up on the floor. There is unknown DNA on items 41 and 53. That means if you go and follow and watch the video we did on the blood, you will see that items 41 and 53 have a mixture of 2 or more individuals on the DNA on those items, and yet David was excluded, and so was either Kamel or Rania, depending on the item that we're talking about. Gun is located 1 inch to 1 foot from David's left hand. Different reports show different locations. Was it moved? David's legs are covered by a blue blanket. Now, mind you, they're saying he stood up and shot himself, but yet he is covered, not haphazardly, but covered with the blue blanket. Bloody footprints show cleaned up blood when sprayed with the amino black. And again, to reiterate this, when you look at the floor, it kind of resembles like a footprint, but when they sprayed it with the amino black, you see swipe marks on the floor, and that is from the invisible blood. So the amino black reacts with the hemoglobin, and that's where you see these patterns left on the floor that are not visible to your naked eye. Kiwi on the counter still looks fresh. Neighbor in the back of the house saw the back door open during Christmas time, but doesn't remember the exact date, which would, still correspond with David and the family being alive. She's seen the back door open, which would make sense if they're going in and out of their house and they're still alive. The DNA on the knife does not match anyone. There's no positive confirmation as to who it belongs to. However, David, Kamel, or Rania cannot be excluded. It doesn't match. Is there more unknown DNA? We don't know. No apparent blood around the knife. Where the knife was located on the floor halfway underneath the sofa. Now, in the reports, and I didn't write that down, which I should because this is another inconsistency. The photo shows the knife blade up underneath the sofa, down by David's lower legs. But in other reports, it says that it's found on the floor next to his body, with the blade pointing up toward his arm. But I forgot that one. But anyway, where the knife is found, there is no blood anywhere, but yet it has blood on the knife itself. And that was never deemed important. Writing on the wall does not match David. Stuffing is under the blanket covering David's leg. Okay, so there's something or somebody is tearing things up and leaving stuffing on the floor, and then David is placed there, and then the blanket is put over him. So you're following now? Prints, ridge details never identified from bloody footprints. The ME did not rehydrate David's hand to get a good palm print impression, and yes, this is possible. His left hand was becoming mummified and very dehydrated, and they could have rehydrated and gotten a palm print because they found, I believe it was palm prints on the gun, but they could not match that to anybody because they said that they could not get a palm print off of David. Of course, that's his right hand, but maybe they could have, seen if was it a left hand palm print. Well, we'll never know now. David's feet were not tested for blood. They accused him of making those quote-unquote bloody footprints, but they never mentioned seeing blood on his feet, and his feet were never tested. Autopsy reports decomp as early to moderate. Police described the decomp as advanced. We might have put that in here already. Sorry if we did. When police left the scene, they had 6 casings, 1 unspent cartridge, and 4 fragments. Without having knowledge of whose blood, tissue, or brain matter was on the evidence, it was determined to be a murder-suicide. Again, before they even walked into the house, it was determined to be murder-suicide. According to the timeline that they've given us, that is what you deduce. Once tested, the evidence retrieved that night showed the blood belonged only to Kamel. The police chief called it murder-suicide without the bullet that killed David being found. Chris Klein told the police he noticed the hole in the ceiling when he was in the house with Dan Sr. and Dan Jr. Dan Sr. denies ever being in the house with Chris Klein. Item 57, or the attic bullet, was not tied to David's gun directly. It was compared with item 31, which was a bullet fragment. And since item 31 was determined to have been fired from the gun, then they said that item 57 must have come from the gun. Now keep in mind, the reports also state that the tests that they did, the test firing, they had poor reproducibility. I forgot to add that one in here too. We'll have to add these. So we'll add that now. The gun, the test firing showed poor reproducibility. They couldn't get consistent markings from the gun on those 4 bullets that they found. That's important. No one at AVPD or the Apple Valley Police Department, BCA, Dakota Sheriff's Department, and me's office, no one saw the hole in the ceiling on January 17th, 2015. Now, I mentioned that a little bit, just a bit before, but keep in mind that they had, I don't know how many people from the Apple Valley Police Department. How many officers were there? A lot. How many people from the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension? Quite a few. They had the Dakota Sheriff's Office there. Nobody saw it. The ME walked in with her staff, her guy that was helping her. They didn't see it either. Nobody saw, and including the cleaning crew. The cleaning crew never saw the hole either, but they weren't there on the 17th. A blue blanket is under Kamel's body, but over David's legs. The knife is found in the locked and open position. Okay, mind you, it's locked and opened. It's halfway underneath the sofa. Has blood on it. They cannot positively say it belongs to David, Kamel, or Rania, and yet it's ignored. Paleo was thin and dehydrated when recovered from the scene, so that kind of flies in the face of he was sustaining himself on the bodies. No pools of blood were found in the house anywhere, nowhere. No blood, hair, tissue, or gray matter was found on item 57. Dan Jr. states he dropped the packages off on 2 separate dates, one being December 28th, but the neighbors don't report seeing the packages until January 10th. The marijuana on the dresser looks staged. The kitchen window was unlocked. According to one police report, the snow was trampled down prior to their arrival. The bodies were moved by one of the officers, causing reports to not be consistent. Some describe Rania laying between her mother's legs on her right side, and the rest describe her as lying on top of her mom's legs between her parents. David's hands are moved. They are in one position in the supposed original picture of the bodies, and they are in another position when the close-up photos are taken. Sean Wright wrote on a Facebook post that if David went ahead with publishing The Rise, it would send him to prison for tax evasion. Police did not investigate. This plays to motive. David and Danny August Mason were not communicating, and Danny August Mason was not responding to David over the Gray State issue. Dan was trying to lay claim, but David has always been written as the sole possessor of the copyright. Police did not investigate. This plays to motive. David was distancing himself from his family due to something that occurred. Police did not investigate. Plays to motive. Kamel was arguing with her family and was not speaking with them. Police did not investigate. This plays to motive. Now, I am not saying that any of these are the reasons and these are the people who hurt this family. That's not the point. If the police have something that they should be investigating, family, friend, or foe, they're supposed to investigate, and they didn't. And there were plenty of people with motive, but they didn't look at any of them. And David was found to be without motive. The photographer moved the skull piece on the torn Quran page on the floor. I counted a minimum of 3 placements. In BCA photo 4411, there is no yellow cup in the dishwasher. In BCA photo 4412, there is a yellow cup in the dishwasher. Why? Why move a yellow cup? There is a half-eaten granola bar on the counter. Did it belong to David, Kamel, Rania? Was it one of the police officers? We don't know. It wasn't tagged. It wasn't noted, but yet there's a half-eaten granola bar on the counter. There is coffee, an eggshell, bread, and an upside-down Patox mild curry jar, granola on counter by the sink, milk cartons in the trash. So this looks like they were making breakfast. They were in the middle of making or cleaning up breakfast. And I know by the way the house looks, it was an absolute pigsty. That is not how Kamel kept her house. That's another thing, which is why it's an inconsistency, because the kitchen was a mess. And Kamel, when you look at photos in the journal and when you see their house in like the little film clips that David did, she kept her house very clean. But yet here we have all of these breakfast things all over the house. All over the kitchen. And so they're trying to say it happened at night, but yet we have breakfast food. Chewed gum is in the trash but was not collected. They don't know who that gum belonged to, but there it was. Reports state Kamel's head was covered by 1 blue blanket, but the photo shows 2 blankets, 1 blue and 1 tan. In the master bedroom, 1 pillow on the bed and 1 pillow on the floor in the closet. Why? They should have asked questions about that. Master bathroom trash is filled with used Q-tips and pipe cleaners, yet David and Kamel had a clean talk screen in their autopsies. That should have sent them questioning that really quick. Hair dyeing glove paper, presumed gloves missing in the kitchen trash, but no hair dye bottles anywhere. Now, the police should have been asking, were those hair dye gloves used to cover a hand, whoever's hand was used to write on the wall? Where were those gloves? They weren't left in the trash. We didn't see them. Did they go through the trash and find them? Not that we know, not that we see. That's huge. The house looks like it's been rifled through. Dresser drawers are a mess, clothes everywhere, boxes opened and gone through, etc. Now, these photos were supposed to have been taken in situ before they started doing all of their processing. So that's why I took notice of this. There are used towels in Rania's bathroom, bedroom, and the master bedroom just lying on the floor. Again, not something that they did. It's not how she kept her house. There are several bullet points here that can be added. However, we have been advised not to make them public. Once an attorney is hired, this information will be provided to them and presented to the court. So what that means, and I can't believe I got through this whole thing already, but I guess we did. I tried to make it really, really fast, so I guess, which is good. Oops, that's not what I meant to do. Sorry, folks. From the current slide. There are things that I have found, and there are things that Sophia and Greg have found, and I believe William found something as well. So, and the one particular thing that I found in the reports blows the entire narrative out of the water. So when I took it to somebody of a position, not just a friend or a neighbor, but again, I cannot say what this is until we hire an attorney. Once they saw that, they were like, yeah, I can't repeat what they said, but let's just say they said, keep your mouth shut. Don't say anything. Although, trust me, there are people who know about this. I know so many people say, if anything happens to me, I don't think anything's going to happen to me. That's not it. I mean, but you never know. Life is weird, but I'm not saying somebody's going to come after me. But in the case life happens, there people do have this information, and it is ready to be presented in a court. So if you think what we've written here is enough to toss the judgment out against David, just toss it straight out the window. Just wait until we can bring out these things that we can't talk about. And it's important to keep some things close to your vest. You know what I mean? You cannot, especially in this kind of a situation, show your hand everywhere, because every time I've taken that step, every time I found there were some things on here that should have gotten the case tossed out, but I took it with good faith and sent it to the police and sent it to others, and they now have walked it back, found a way, made excuses, and then stopped sharing information. So that tells me I can't trust them, and so I won't do this with the rest of this information. Good news is that I did hear back from a state representative. I'm not sure if they're actually in Washington, D.C., or if their office is within the state. They are a state representative in Washington, D.C., though. They have their contacts there. And they finally wrote back. They stated that they personally cannot do anything because it's out of their jurisdiction and it's out of what their purview of what they do. But they stated, and I quote, "I highly suggest you hire an attorney." So that's the next step. That's what we're going to do. So that was really positive. I did hear back also from someone a reporter, and from one of the online newspaper articles that were written, and they have been requesting updated information and requesting, been back and forth, and I'm sending them things that I have as well. So to me, these are steps forward. These are good positive steps. The next step we do need to get, though, is an attorney. And I hope you guys see that an investigation should have occurred prior to the accusation of David. And I cannot stress this enough. And it just doesn't seem like people are understanding. It's like it's going in one ear and out another. So please stop all presumed ideations and whatever it is you feel has happened in this case, and hear this piece of information. The skull piece on the floor next to David's body has straight edges. Straight, not curved, not ripped, not torn, straight. Throughout the entire piece of wherever this piece of skull came from. Did it come from here? I don't know, because I wasn't there. But this is the piece of skull that articulates well with the remaining part of the calvarium. per the ME, has straight edges, and there is a knife at the scene that has somebody's blood on it, but they can't really determine whose it is. So how all of those people who are saying David did this, how did he get his head, the skull piece, taken off with straight edges? It is impossible. I am telling you, it's impossible. So if he didn't do it, who did? There are so many things that clear him, but that for sure should tell you all. Somebody else was there. Somebody else did this. Because somebody else put those straight edges on his skull piece. Not him. A gun couldn't do that. A hand, a dog. No, they don't make straight edges. Look at the photos. Zoom in. You'll see what I mean. And I have a video on this as well. But again, these are just more inconsistencies. And all I can say is let me stop sharing my screen real quick here. I don't know what else to do, and I don't know what else to say. There, you know, David's legs are underneath a blanket that is under his wife. His feet are not described as having blood in the autopsy report. As the ME is going through and taking notes of what she sees on the body, you know, she says that his nails and everything, his toenails and his fingernails are well groomed and maintained. There's no mention of blood. So that tells you he couldn't have stepped in the blood. Plus, we know they're not bloody footprints. We've done multiple videos on that. There is none of his blood in the house. People try to say, well, maybe the dog ate his bullet. So the dog conveniently ate the bullet that killed David and the bullet that killed Rania, and only those two, although there were multiple fragments all over the floor and those were never touched, and they all belong to Kamel. That's ridiculous. So you have to look at it completely and logically. And logic tells you that where their bullets are not there, so where are they? Where were these two killed? I don't know. I don't know if they were killed in anywhere else in the house. Were they taken from the house? At this point, I think it's possible. Both scenarios are possible. But go through this, watch this again, and stop the video and look at each inconsistency. Look at everything. Go to the reports. Find this. Read it for yourself and think about it. And with each one of these, how did they come to the conclusion that David was guilty? How could the police chief be quoted in a news article stating that he knew within 2 hours that David was guilty when they had nothing that proved his guilt? They don't even have his blood in the house except for on the magazine, which was loaded inside of the gun. That means David was bleeding prior to somebody taking that magazine and loading it. Why would he have been bleeding? I mean, if he's doing this to himself, think about this. If he's doing it to himself, why would he have been bleeding? There's no mention of any cuts, no mention of any injuries anywhere else on his body, just his head. He couldn't have done it. Can't. It's impossible. So anyway, I hope you guys get something out of this, and I hope pretty soon too to have Sophia back with me and working on another video. She's been taking a well-deserved break. I told her to take as long as she needs, and I'll just keep doing videos as I come up on the topics. But anyway, hope you guys have a great night, and we will talk to you later.